Happy Friday. I'm kind of sick, so bear with me. So I just got my sleeve added on too, right there. It's pretty freaking cool. It stretches all the way around. It's really hard to position like that. And my sleeves are, well, this one's going to be one eventually too, are fairytale based because, obviously I'm a storyteller. And fairy tales are something, especially the old ones, are something that really make me go. So, and most of them, like the first half of the sleeve, people can look and be like, oh, that's Rapunzel, or, that's Maleficent's castle. And I'm like, yeah. But they're like, who, what the F is that? There's a corpse on your arm. Yes, there is. And I will tell you this story because most people, not a ton, like the general population, know the story of Fitcher's bird. Well, or Bluebeard. I mean, it's the same story, but the Grimm recorded it better, in my opinion, because Perrault, the French dude, was like, the whole moral of that story was like, female curiosity will get you murdered. And your strong men folk will come save you, but only after you're punished. So Fitcher's bird is very much more in a lot of the Grimm fairy tales that the woman saves herself and she saves her sisters. So, quick, yay, story time. Alright, so many years ago, once upon a time, there was a family, 3 daughters. And they weren't very well off, and but they kind of did alright for themselves. And so one day this rich stranger comes galloping through the woods, and he sees the oldest daughter and is immediately struck like, oh, snap. And so he convinces the father to allow him to marry this woman and, gallops with her off to his castle. And it's kind of a creepy castle. So they're not there very long. And he's like, oh my God, I have to go off on business. Here's this egg, this really pretty gold egg. I love, it's a symbol of my love to you. Take it wherever you go. And here's the keys to the castle. And you can go anywhere in the castle. Just don't go to the room where this little key, goes. Any other room, just not that one. So naturally, as soon as he's gone, she trots down to that room. I mean, it takes her a couple days, but she trots down to that room and looks in and opens the door. And there's just dismembered bodies, and there's like a cauldron of blood, and there's just shit everywhere, like psychopathic shit. So in her shock, she drops the egg and it splatters with the blood. So she's like, oh, I can clean this up. He'll never know, except she can't clean the blood off the egg. Like, doesn't matter what she does, she can't do it. So, he gallops home and is like, oh, show me this egg. And she's like, oh, I lost it. And he's like, no, you didn't. Show me the damn egg. So she does. And he's like, you went to that room. Well, now you're going to join everybody there. So he chops her up and puts her into the room. So, and this is where the fairy tale gets weird. Then, a little while later, he's galloping past the original family's house again and sees the second oldest daughter. And is like, I'm going to get me some of that. All over again. Egg, leaves, she goes exploring, drops the egg, he comes back, kills her as well. So, now, at this point, you can wonder, why aren't the parents being like, they're not. So, the third and final daughter, the youngest one, the one that's always been a little off, she's at least somewhat aware that, something's not right in freaking the woods. So, when he brings her back to his castle, because he married her, marrying her as well, he gives her the egg and he leaves again. He has a lot of business trips. So, she, being quite crafty, hides, or, leaves the egg. And while she's exploring the house, and she goes into that room, of course, and sees, the dismembered bodies of her sisters, and immediately, puts them back together, and they, come back alive because it's magic. And so she's like, all right, I'm gonna get y'all dumbass bitches out of here. So, they hide, and he comes back and inspects the egg, and it's like, oh my God! You're the love of my life. I knew I could trust you. We'll be so happy together. And apparently, dude's got serious trust issues. So she's like, yeah, totally. She's like, but I'm really worried about my parents. Like, I really want them to make sure that they're okay. And I would feel so much better if, if you personally would carry 3 giant bags of gold, like, back to my parents. And he's like, yeah, totally, anything for you. So in this first bag goes the oldest sister. And as he's, like, walking, the youngest sister is up in the tower, like, I see you, don't you stop for anything. And so, he gets out of, like, eyesight, and he's like, oh, maybe I'll stop. And then he hears her voice, I see you, don't you mother truck and stop. Which, of course, it's the oldest sister saying this, but he doesn't know that. So he delivers this bag, delivers the second bag carrying the second oldest sister. And then, in a bag of actual gold. So, but the thing is in this third bag of actual gold, he was looking up into the tower and he's seeing what he thinks is his wife, but it's actually, one of these corpses that he's dismembered, that she's dressed up like a bride. And she, like, basically tars and feathers herself, sort of. Like, so she looks like a bird. And he actually, like, interacts with her on this trip back and has no idea. And, of course, then the entire family is reunited with their gold. And he ends up, getting murdered through mysterious means back at his castle. And they all live, well, the women lived happily ever after. But it's one of the very few fairy tales that actually covers post-marriage. Most of them, it's like, they get married and they ride off into the sunset. And Bluebeard's like, well, they started married and all this terrible stuff happened. So, that's actually one of my favorite fairy tales, and that's what is up now, in addition to on my arm. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. Have a great weekend. Toodles.